Good morning, everyone. And I wanted to invite you and welcome you to my very first foray into live videos and welcome you to my project, the HeartCentered Life project. And as an introductory remark to what I'm doing with the HeartCentered Life project, I started thinking about the project a long time ago, or well, not that long ago, but about a year ago, around June last year. Um, and the project really stemmed from a lot of reading and a lot of work that I did, looking at things like authentic leadership and of course, that work is led by Bill George at Harvard Business School, and of course Susan Steinbrecker's Heart-Centered Leadership. Um, but with all that is happening today with COVID-19, um, I started thinking more about my work, and it came a point when I realized that thinking a lot about the heart-centered had kind of made me downplay the importance of other parts of of other parts of the human body that actually contributes towards um, good decision making and good responses to what's happening around us. And so I wanted to take this opportunity as my very first live to talk about the initial conception of the project, and how I've started to reconceptualize those ideas. So I'm going to share my screen. I did a slide presentation that I can show you, but that to talk a little bit better idea of what the project and what those three responses could be for the heart-centered life. So what I had wanted to talk about today was the basis for the project and the three heart-centered responses to what's happening today. So let me see. I need to share my screen. I think I came out of it, but here again. So this is the three heart-centered responses to what's happening today. And as I was explaining earlier, I had focused so much on the heart center that I kind of forgot that actually there are different organs in the human body that actually help us make better decisions. Of course, we cannot discount the mind and the brain, but also the stomach or the gut actually has neurons, right? That in here I have on the slides, it's 100 million neurons that actually triggers thoughts and emotions that can actually guide us towards better decision making. So researchers in medicine have identified the human brain, the heart, and the gut as organs that actually make decisions, with the brain controlling cognitive functions, the heart controlling emotional responses, and of course the gut would be controlling intuition. And so with what's happening with COVID-19, I began to realize that with, when we're put in a position where we move from our daily routine into survival mode in a matter of days, we really need to make sure that not just are we heart-centered, but we also need to engage our intellect um, and our intuitive responses, bring them together and come up with the best possible response to what's happening today. So with the project, um, uh, when I used to focus so much on the heart, I've started thinking that we need to bring somehow what we understand about our brains and the way our brain makes decisions in terms of cognition, its intellect, the way we perceive things, creativity and innovation together with emotional responses, such as what our emotions are at a particular point in time, what our values and priorities are, connectedness to one another, and of course relatability to our environment and the conditions around us. And the final thing that I think is really important in bringing into the heart-centered life is our gut reactions. And the gut really identifies what our core identity is, our self versus others, what self-preservation means, including being safe and setting healthy boundaries, and mobilization, right? Encouraging us um, to find the courage to take an action when an action is needed. So, with having more time, being at home with the state orders to stay home and shelter in place, I've started thinking that when we talk about heart centeredness, what is it? It's really an approach to life and decision making that prioritizes our deep personal happiness and well being. So, from that place, we can then meet the world's deepest hunger, um, and solve some of the problems that we see in the world around us, whether that problem be a small problem or a large one. And for those of you who do not know me, my name is Elena Ng Boyd, and I'm an intellectual property law professor. I'm the owner of Elena Boyd, which is designed as a social enterprise committed to addressing poverty, hunger, and climate change through intellectual property. And I'm also the founder of the HeartCentered Life project. And underlying everything that I do here uh, is an emphasis on creativity and innovation because of my background in intellectual property law and what I've done in terms of research, studying the neuroscience of creativity and innovation, and management practices and leadership practices. I mean, all that I've done in terms of research underlies what we do here, what I'm trying to do here with the HeartCentered Life project. So, having said that, now that I have brought together a more concrete idea of thinking about heart-centeredness by engaging not just the heart, but all the heart responses to what's happening around us, but also the mind, the intellect, and our intuition. Um, what are the three heart-centered responses to what's happening today? And I was thinking about if we're thinking about heart-centeredness in terms of bringing together the mind, the heart, and the gut reaction together, how do we think about staying at home, when there is this pandemic that the state is trying to deal with, that our medical professionals are trying to deal with, um, and the rest of us who are trying to navigate really what is uncharted territories. So this is the way I think that we could approach the situation we are in from a heart-centered place. So the first thing is to get out of survival mode, which is really a gut-based reaction, and move into creative mode. So we need to learn to let go of things that essentially we cannot control and start concentrating on things that we can control. So when there were orders of to stay at home and to shelter in place being put out by state governments, or even before that, when there was more and more information getting out there about how severe the pandemic was going to be, a lot of people rushed out and stocked up on essentials and groceries, which is essentially a survival mode. Um, and it's an understandable reaction, because in that instance, what's really taking control is our gut-based reaction. Intuition that when something goes wrong, we need to gather all our resources in order to survive. But a more heart-centered response would be to get out of that survival mode and into creative mode. And I'm not saying that that essentials and groceries are not important. They are, but also to not feel like that is the only way or the only resources that we have in order to survive. So think about how to get out of that space into being creative. How can we stretch out groceries to last several more meals, and how to make it appetizing and delicious with the very little that we have? Can we use bread in a different way? Can we put together the things that we don't usually use often, like flour, and the other groceries that we get, like eggs, and can we make our own bread? Research and find recipes that you've never tried before, using what you have in your pantry. So the first thing that I think we need to do is get out of survival mode and quiet our mind enough, or quiet our guts enough and our intuitive responses enough sufficiently that we can then engage our intellect and be creative and innovative. So that's the first suggestion. The second suggestion is that many times it's difficult to be creative because we are afraid to be creative. And the reason why I say that is because we've been trained to exist and to live in the silos and rules that society has placed on us. So social rules, social norms, workplace norms in the school place have routinized our daily activity to the point that we are less creative. It's easy to follow rules and instructions than to work out your own rules and instructions to produce something new and innovative. So the second thing I would propose in this time away from our regular routines, and to challenge you to find the courage to be brave, to be innovative, and to create. And when we do that, we will identify solutions to the problems that we are facing. When we focus less on the problem itself and focus more on creating and innovating different solutions. So the next idea that I have for a more heart-centered approach is to dare to be brave, innovative, and creative. And the final thing I would say about about having a more heart-centered response to our pandemic is to practice resiliency. And it's easy to give in and to listen to the news and think that we are in a difficult situation and we don't really know when this is all going to end. And the truth is, it's a difficult situation that we are in, and I'm by no means downplaying the severity of the pandemic, but the solution to the pandemic is not going to come from people who give up easily. So the third suggestion that I have for a heart-centered approach is to practice resiliency. And by practicing resiliency, I mean to be internally stronger than before. And to be that way, we really have to engage not just our minds to tell ourselves logically that this is what we should do, but also build up our emotional responses so that when things are not working out the way we expect them to, we do not break and give up and realize that or think that we have no other options. So um, a good heart-centered response to what's happening today is to be internally stronger than our external world, and to remember that many people who have found success and made significant social contributions through their creativity and innovativeness have failed many times before. And failure really isn't um, a stamp of that you're not good enough, right? It's the idea that if you failed, what you need to do is engage your heart center, find the emotions to overcome or to learn from those failures and take the next step with that learning. So Henry Ford, and this is a great example, he actually went that's a that's an one person in a long trajectory of people who have uh, so the third heart-centered response to what's happening today is to practice resiliency. So for Zoom, and I had wanted to share that with you, but also to I'm really excited with where the heart-centered life is going. And I want you to stay with me on this journey as I develop some of these ideas that I've been working on for all a large part of my and more recently with this project. So stay with me on this journey. Please connect with me on my website through Facebook. I have some posts on Pinterest, through Instagram, and I do a lot of people through Zoom, and of course that's my email. So um, thank you for tuning into this video and live video. And I'm again, this is my first foray, so I know there are some glitches from polish up my thank you, and until next time, have a great day, be safe, and be well.